parents and children. Customarily, I must say that I'm very happy to be here and thank Mr. and Mrs. Pahari for giving me this opportunity. I think, before inviting me here, they should have put me through making CHAMPS course on public speaking to prepare me for the speech. The children spoke wonderfully well, and I must compliment both of them for what they have done. I was very surprised when Prasanna, an MBA, and Millie, a chartered accountant, decided to go in for education, the field of education, and start their own training program. But I can understand one of the reasons, because with something like this, not only you train children from other parents, but you can train your own children without making extra efforts, right? But I think education is a very important field. I was here for you people. Because of the time, only of parents now. Students were not able to communicate, were not able to express their views and thoughts, and this decline has many reasons. Today we have a population of over 100 crores in India. But if you want a good chartered accountant, it's difficult to find. If you want a good engineer, if you are seeking an engineer, it's difficult to find. And you normally have to compromise on the requirements while taking candidates in and then start training them and getting them into good engineers or chartered accountants or whatever else you want. And one of the reasons for this is that if you look at the salary scales of teachers, they are pathetic. And in Anjuman we have many teachers, and sometimes when we advertise for new teachers and professors in the colleges and schools, we find that the crop that comes in is even worse than what we have seen in Voltas when we were looking for engineers and chartered accountants. So basically, the people who don't get jobs elsewhere finally come into education, and not because they love the educational field or they like children and they want to do something for the society. Of course, there are teachers who are very good, they are committed, and they have the right qualification and they love to teach, but there are very few of them. And if you look at the requirements today of the number of teachers, particularly in villages, towns, cities, it is huge. And this requirement is not being met. You find schools in particularly villages and smaller towns where schools are there, students are there, but there are no teachers. And so what needs to be done also is, apart from taking various measures, RTE, the right to education is one right step, but RTE requires that you have 30 students per class. In most of the schools and colleges, you have 50 students per class. Now, one of the issues that immediately comes to mind is if you have 30 students per class, you have to have larger number of classrooms, and therefore space and real estate requirement. But I think a bigger challenge is to have so many number of teachers who can man those classes, the double number of classes. And where are they? They are not available anywhere. So what we need to do is to increase the level of remuneration for the teachers so that the better qualified people come into this field and they fulfill the requirements so the increasing number of students increasing number of teachers required in various institutions. And if you have to increase the fees, either the government has to give grants, government is bankrupt, whether it be state, whether it be center. So who's going to fund all the schools and the requirements of additional funds required? At the same time, you need to increase the salaries. Today, the salary standard for engineering colleges is something like 1.5 lakhs per professor. And if you have to have the adequate number of professors, you have to have remuneration resulting from the students. The students have to pay the higher fees. And if you look at the divide of the poor and the rich, it is a huge divide. Rich are becoming richer, poor are becoming poorer, and the number of middle class and poor class people are increasing by leaps and bounds. And therefore, if those children have to come into this exhibition and pay high fees, who's going to fund that? Parents won't be able to do it. And therefore, you will have a huge problem going forward. We keep talking about the demographic dividend in this country. It is quite likely that instead of reaping the benefit of demographic dividend, we may have a large amount of people who are not well educated, who are not well trained, and therefore there is social unrest in the days to come. And this will become a demographic liability, a demographic problem rather than the demographic dividend for the country. It is a big challenge for the country, and also therefore we need to develop institutions which can fund education. And unless we have such institutions in a larger number than what we have today, it's going to be a big challenge, and it's going to become a vicious circle where there are lower fees, so no teachers, so poor study, poor teaching, and leading to poor people coming out of various education institutions. I think there are no two ways. As the parents, you also have to take responsibility. Another major problem that we are going to face is of husband and wife both working. And when this happens, normally in the nuclear family, there is nobody to look after the children. So the children are left to the teachers or to the ayahs and the maids who would look after them. Parents have no time. And parents come back in the evening. The mother, unfortunately, also has a second role of coming back home, preparing the meals. And generally, if I may say so, the fathers don't shoulder the responsibility of looking after the children when the wife is preparing the meals and breakfast and dinner. And therefore, if we go back, we used to have these joint families. At that time also, both husband and wife used to work. In the fields, they were cultivating and they both were busy, but the parents of either the mother or the father or both would take care of the children and look after them and develop their cultural skills, their social skills, and help them in this. Today, that is a big vacuum. And it also leads to another problem.